My new manager is someone I slept with years ago, and he doesn't know we have a child. I can't believe I'm even typing this. I've gone over this moment in my head so many times, like some weird mix between a bad rom-com and a HR horror story, but here we are. A while back, okay, a decade ago, I went back to uni to do my PhD. I was in my late 20s, slightly burned out from corporate life, and surrounded by a bunch of overachievers who lived on coffee and barely knew what sunlight was. We shared an open office space, and one of the guys, Jacob, was this friendly, quiet, super smart student from overseas. He had this calm vibe, always wore button-downs, and never got involved in drama. We got along, but not in a flirty way. It was chill. Anyway, after Jacob submitted his thesis, we all went out for drinks to celebrate. He was moving back to his home country, and it was one of those emotional farewell things where everyone's a bit buzzed, and there's this weird tension in the air like, this is our last hurrah. One thing led to another, we ended up sleeping together that night. It wasn't some earth-shattering connection, just two people who'd had a few too many drinks and made a very permanent decision without knowing it. A few weeks later, I realized I was pregnant. And here's where it all spiraled. His uni email was dead. His phone number? Disconnected. He didn't live at the address on record anymore, and I didn't know his real first name, just Jacob, which he used in Australia. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack was in a completely different country that didn't use Google or Facebook the same way we do. I tried. I asked around, checked with his supervisor, even rang a number listed under a next of kin on the uni file, nothing. After months of chasing and being sick as hell with hyperemesis, I had to stop. I told myself if he ever resurfaced, I'd tell him. But for now, I was going to be a single mom. Fast forward nearly 10 years. I have a brilliant daughter who is half me, half mystery genes. Every time she did something I couldn't trace back to myself, I thought about Jacob. But I figured he probably never thought about that night again. Why would he? For him, it was just a send-off hookup. For me, it changed everything. And now, the plot twist to end all plot twists, our department head sent an email last week welcoming our new manager. Photo attached. Guess who it is? Yep. Jacob. The second I saw that photo in the intro email, my heart dropped. It was him. Jacob. A little older, sure. He filled out a bit, a few more smile lines, but unmistakably him. The exact same face my daughter inherited. I swear, I had to check twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. I sat there just, frozen. Not even scared. More like shocked. You spend nearly a decade wondering where someone is, and then, bam, he's your new manager. Like some cruel twist written by a screenwriter who hates women. And no, he didn't recognize me. Or at least, he didn't say anything if he did. We had all been told to reply all to the welcome email and introduce ourselves. Everyone else was like, welcome aboard, or excited to work with you, and I'm sitting there wondering if I should say, hey, remember that one night stand you probably forgot about? You have a 9-year-old daughter now. I didn't reply at all. I just sat on it. Then I did what I always do when I panic, I cleaned. Like deep cleaned. Scrubbed tiles, rearranged bookshelves, wiped down every goddamn cabinet. It didn't help. The next morning, I called my union rep and basically blurted everything. I slept with the new manager 10 years ago, and he's the dad of my kid and doesn't know. Dead silence. Then she just went, okay. First step, say nothing. Apparently, legally, until he declared the prior relationship, I was better off just staying quiet and waiting to see what HR did. But I knew it would get messy. HR at my job is nosy as hell, and people already knew my daughter was half Chinese and about 9. If anyone put 2 and 2 together, I'd lose control of the story. So I spoke to a lawyer. He confirmed my worst fear. If Jacob didn't report the relationship but it came out later, and I hadn't disclosed anything, I could get caught in the fallout. Especially since Jacob would technically be my supervisor. Conflict of interest, perceived bias, yada yada. So, I sent HR an email. Just a calm, professional, hey, just want to declare that I had a prior relationship with Jacob back when we were both students. It was brief, and I don't anticipate it affecting anything, but I wanted to be transparent. No mention of the kid. Just the bare minimum. And that was the beginning of the end. Within 2 hours of sending that email to HR, I got a calendar invite. Meeting with HR, a senior manager I barely knew, and my union rep, no Jacob. Just me, sitting there with 4 people who suddenly looked very serious. At first, it was polite. They thanked me for disclosing the past relationship. Said they appreciated the transparency. And then it got weird. Really weird. They wanted me to sign a statutory declaration. Not just that we had a past connection, but specifics. What happened? When it happened? How many times? Who initiated it? I wish I was joking. They were asking for sex details like it was an HR version of a police report. I said no. I wasn't going to hand over the intimate details of a one-night stand from a decade ago just so they could file it in some goddamn compliance folder. My union rep shut that down immediately, bless her. We ended the meeting on a tense, "We'll consider options" note. That same week, everything changed. My swipe card stopped working one morning. I had to wait 20 minutes outside the building until someone let me in. I couldn't log into my computer. My email and calendar were wiped. HR said it was an IT error. Right. The kind of IT error that only targets me. Then came the drug test. Out of nowhere. A random selection, right before I was supposed to lead a client presentation. I had to cancel last minute, which of course looked unprofessional. They canceled my travel bookings for an upcoming conference. I found out on the day of the flight when I called the hotel to confirm and they were like, "Ma'am, this reservation was canceled yesterday." Coworkers started whispering. I overheard two people at the printer talking about how I hooked up with the new boss and probably got special treatment. Apparently HR had been talking. Like talking. And Jacob? Still not saying a word. I don't even know if they told him yet. I don't even know if he remembers that night, let alone realizes the kid he doesn't know about is the reason I'm being quietly pushed off a cliff by my own employer. I was coming home every day nauseous with stress. My daughter would ask if I was okay and I'd lie through my teeth. I started crying at work. In the bathroom. In my car. One day I couldn't even make it out of the elevator before I broke down. The union rep told me to document everything. My lawyer told me it would be at least a year to resolve anything legally. A year of being frozen out, micromanaged, undermined, and professionally assassinated by the people I used to have lunch with. I cracked. I quit. After I quit, I had this weird period where I felt both relieved and furious. I finally slept through the night for the first time in weeks. But then I'd wake up and remember how they broke me down, like I was disposable. Like I didn't matter. I kept replaying everything in my head. HR. The whispers. The feeling of knowing the people who were supposed to support me were actively trying to ruin me. Over what? A hookup I had a decade ago that gave me the best thing in my life? I couldn't sit with it anymore. I hadn't told Jacob. Not about the pregnancy. Not about the child. Not about the chaos that unfolded at work. Nothing. He had no idea. For all I knew, he was settling into the job, decorating his new office, maybe wondering why I bailed so suddenly, but not connecting any of it back to me. So, with the help of a family lawyer, I wrote him a letter. Not dramatic. Not demanding. Just honest. I told him that we had a daughter. That I had tried, really tried, to find him. That I wasn't asking for anything from him. No money. No co-parenting. No pressure. I just thought he had the right to know. I gave him my lawyer's contact info and told him I wouldn't be reaching out again unless he wanted to talk. Then I dropped the letter off at his office in an envelope with his name on it. I walked out of the building without looking back. And I waited. Weeks went by. My anxiety was out of control. I was convinced HR had intercepted it. Or shredded it. Or maybe he got it and just didn't care. Every scenario ran through my head. Maybe he was mad. Maybe he didn't believe me. Maybe he thought I was trying to trap him. Then, an email. Not from Jacob. From my lawyer. He'd replied. He was calm. Kind, even. Said he was still processing everything, but he wasn't angry. He apologized, if my leaving had anything to do with him. Said he had no intention of taking legal action, but wanted to offer his family's medical history in case it helped our daughter. Then came the part that made me cry. He said he'd like to meet her, if she was open to it. And that she had siblings. 2, actually. Who'd love to know their big sister. I didn't expect that. I thought maybe I'd get a polite thank you and silence. But this? It caught me off guard. I told my daughter. She didn't say much at first. Just took it all in. Then she said, "I'm glad I know, but I don't think I want to meet him. Not yet." And I respected that. Completely. She doesn't even know about the workplace mess. I don't want to put that weight on her shoulders. But I told her the truth. That I did my best. That he knows now. And that the door's open if she ever changes her mind. After quitting, I honestly thought that was it. I'd lost my job, nearly lost my mind, and told a man, who hadn't thought about me in a decade, that he had a kid. I was exhausted. I didn't want revenge or some dramatic comeback. I just wanted peace. A place to breathe. Finding a new job was harder than I expected. My field is small. Like, really small. Everyone knows everyone. My last company was a big name in our niche, and quietly resigning without an official reference wasn't a great look. But I had some savings and time, so I told myself I'd wait for the right role. And then Jacob called. Not about our daughter. He was careful not to blur that line. It was about a job. Remember how my old company poached him from a competitor to avoid client loss? Well, that company had come back, again, offering more money, full control, the works. And Jacob? He turned them down. But before he did, he gave them my name. They called. We talked. I interviewed. And I got the job. It's a step up. Better pay, saner people, no passive-aggressive HR threats, no one judging me over something I did a decade ago. I hired one of my old coworkers who left after seeing what HR did to me, plus 2 fresh grads I'm mentoring. And now? Some of the clients who used to work with my old company are switching to us. Their worst fear? Me becoming the competition. And that's exactly what happened. As for Jacob, he stayed respectful. When I told him about our daughter, he didn't push. He just said the door was open if she ever wanted to talk. And recently, she did. She reached out. I didn't push it. She came to me one night and said she wanted to know him. They'd been talking ever since. She met her half-siblings. They're not pretending to be some perfect little family, but there's warmth, curiosity, some connection. And that's more than I ever hoped for. I don't know if Jacob and I will ever actually talk again. We keep it minimal. Polite. And that's fine by me. I'm not angry anymore. I've moved on. But I do think about how my old job tried to bury me to protect him, and in the end, I built something better than anything they were trying to gatekeep. So, no. I didn't want revenge. But damn, it feels good to win anyway.